Hello, and you are listening to the Book Was Better podcast, the podcast where we talk about the book of the film. I'm Luke.
I'm Courtney.
And this week we're talking about Nancy Drew, a novelization of the hit movie.
Hey you, put down the popcorn and turn on the light. It's gonna be alright, my friend. In the end, take my hand. Trust me, the book was better.
Holy crap, well this is a treat. First episode for 2015 for you, Miss Courtney Coulson.
Yeah.
My very own Nancy Drew.
Well, so we're covering Nancy Drew because since Sherlock Season 3 was so incredibly disappointing, I feel like I need to find a new detective in my life.
We have to go back to basics, back to, I was going to say where it all began. I think Sherlock probably
Yeah. It began
outdates
with,
Nancy Drew. But Nancy Drew, there's some girl power here. I had never read any Nancy Drew stuff, but this is Young Emma Roberts. It's a film from 2007.
Which I can't believe how long ago 2007 was. When I watched this and when I read it, I realised, oh yeah, it's considerable time ago, especially with the mobile phones and stuff that show up in there.
Yeah, I actually thought it was a lot earlier reading it. But then Nancy Drew, spoilers, she's trapped in another time. She's from another place, in a way.
Sort of. I wish they played that up a bit more. I like how, was it River Heights, Riverdale, whatever. Yeah, it seems to be trapped in the 1950s, whereas the rest of the world is very contemporary.
Yeah, and the problem I have with this as a film, and I did watch most of it, is that the direction is really bland. I almost wish they'd heightened it in that kind of Brady Bunch movie way, where it was just so clear that these characters were anachronisms.
Yeah,
But still managed to work their charm in the modernized urban world.
Yeah, I think this movie and the book is a lot of fun and has a charm to it. But it just needs a little something more.
Well, look, I had a lot of fun with this one, so I'm pretty eager to get straight into it because that, my friends, is where the lulz are reading through this book. I love it when we get a book written for younger people. It's a nice mental break for me, but also I think that's where a lot of comedy can be found.
They're a lot easier to get through and a lot quicker.
That is very true. This one is by Daniela Burr, who is the author of books such as Barbie in the 12 Dancing Princesses, a junior novelization. If I can get hold of the adult version of that, I would love to. And this inspired me, A Chick Thing number 2, Darcy's Wild Life. Now, before you look, what do you think this is about? Have a guess.
I'm not touching that.
A Chick Thing.
Well, if we're going to take it literally, is it actual chickens?
I think you might be right.
Oh, wow.
I thought you were going to go the she-male angle, but no. Here we go. Darcy's life on the ranch may be simple, but there's always something going on. First, Darcy plans a huge bash for Kathy's birthday, only to have it crashed by 200 baby chicks.
I was right, yes.
Then Weird Lane gets a crush on Darcy and won't leave her alone, but Darcy is beginning to find that life in the middle of nowhere isn't all that bad. At least she's never... And then the description ends.
That's where it ends?
Never what? At least she's never had all her orifices plugged up with baby chicks. I don't know. Been bashed on her birthday.
Well, at least I never. Maybe it's a little bit like that.
Sounds like a mystery for Nancy Drew.
Yeah.
She'd be able to solve this. The mystery of the thing that Darcy at least never did. Unlike Lane, I don't know.
Went to the moon.
Mystery, I'll wait for the movie. But here we go. Nancy Drew. She's a girl detective. This is the beginning. Nancy Drew sat crouched in the small closet in Pastor Murray's office.
She didn't dare breathe, never mind move.
In the office, just beyond the closet, she could hear the voices of 2 dangerous thieves pulling off a burglary.
The situation was extremely dangerous, and keeping her presence unknown for as long as she could was of the utmost importance.
But suddenly, the closet door swung open and a tall, muscular man with a dark moustache glared down at her.
"Who are you?" he demanded in a harsh, gruff voice.
The pretty teen detective with the beautiful honey brown hair straightened her sweater and then held out her hand.
"Hello, I'm Nancy Drew," she said, rising to her feet, demonstrating that she was not at all intimidated by the man's size. "It's nice to meet you. May I ask, who are you?"
Yesterday, the body of a teenager with honey brown hair was found brutally beaten and mutilated in a dumpster behind Pastor Murray's office. 2 men have been charged, one with a dark moustache.
I must also point out that her voice really is that high. It's very jarring.
Yeah, she's very little, Emma Roberts, in this, and very squeaky. She apparently took elocution lessons and things for this whole Nancy Drew thing to turn her from a, I imagine, completely gross, rambunctious American teenager into the refined 50s specimen that we have in this film.
Yeah, because to be Nancy Drew, you have to be absolutely perfect. And in the original books, I mean, yeah, this book pretty much keeps in, or the movie I should say, keeps into that theme of the original books where she's just this absolute perfect human being.
But talk about walking on the razor's edge. Like, she just does not give a damn about her personal safety. These are two gruff, hardened criminals. Two desperate men, I would assume. God knows what they are capable of doing to this young girl in the closet of a pastor's office.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Sherlock would have done this sort of stuff as a kid. I think, she started way earlier than he did.
Well, this is kind of frightening, and I think this could be a very short book because of it. But no, don't fret. Nancy clearly has some Sherlock-esque powers of uncanny deduction of her own. She manages to expose these crooks and call the police, although you notice she calls the police right in front of them, and I couldn't figure out why they chose not to smash her face in with the phone. That could have solved their problem. But
she's just so charming.
Here we go.
Naturally, her call was put straight through to Chief McGinnis. The chief always took Nancy's calls. She was his best detective, or at least she would be if she were on his staff. Nancy was only an amateur detective, but she was an incredible super sleuth.
Meanwhile, in Gotham City, Jim Gordon let out a sigh of relief that another police department relied on somebody even sillier than he did. He was like, "Oh, fuck, that man dressed as a bat, I've been getting a lot of heat. I hear they rely on this young girl to solve all their crimes."
That just got me to think that the 80s Batman movies, they were kind of, like, they're set in contemporary time, but they almost seem like they're from another decade, if that makes sense.
Oh, I think they're timeless. I don't think they are set in contemporary time. Like, you look at all the architecture, the cars, the police uniforms, everything like that. They're like this pastiche of all these different eras that Batman has existed in.
Yeah, I like when, and this is something I really wish they would do with the Fantastic Four, is keep the characters in the time that works best for them. You can kind of modernize around the edges, but keep the core characters in that time.
Now, Nancy Drew gets out her sleuth kit, which contains a flashlight, a fountain pen, a notebook, magnifying glass, fingerprint powder, a digital recorder, and one of Hannah's lemon bars, which he splits with the crooks, leading to this immortal line.
While Nancy was making sure that all the sugar levels were kept up inside the pastor's office, Chief McGinnis was outside making sure that everything was ready for a safe arrest of the two burglars.
So Nancy Drew concerned with sugar levels. There's a very tongue-in-cheek feel to this book. Not taking this crime particularly seriously, I noticed.
Yeah, there's no danger whatsoever.
And Nancy's two closest girlfriends arrive on the scene. They are George Fane and Bess Marvin, also, I assume, living this 50s existence.
Beautiful American names.
And they run into this worried boy who clearly has a crush on Nancy, and he has the unfortunate name Ned Nickerson. So I wondered, like, if your name is Bakerson, you probably are the son of a baker somewhere along the line. Well, what are you, do you think, if your name is Nickerson?
He has descended from a long line of proud panty raid champions. Oh, or, it means the son of Nicholas if you want facts or whatever.
Saint Nicholas?
Yeah.
He's an elf, is what you're saying.
Yes, it's essentially what I'm trying to say.
He's here to make toy trains.
And the thing with Ned is that I like how, and it's the same as in the original book, it's that reversal of the gender roles where Nancy's this strong, independent, central character, and then you've got the love interest who is basically incompetent.
He's a bit of a dipshit, he's old Ned.
We'll see why very soon.
Yeah, like he calls up Nancy, who is still locked up with the dangerous crooks, and he says, I had this dream during my nap today that you went to California and met that guy on Smallville and you got amnesia and you literally forgot you ever knew me and then I turned into a squirrel. He blurted out in one breath. What do you think that means? I think it means that Superboy banged her so hard she forgot who she was. Is that his superpower?
Yeah, I think so.
Doesn't, Christopher Reeve give Lois Lane a kiss that makes her forget everything that's just happened to her?
Yeah, it's his date rape kiss.
It's pretty Bill Cosby there, isn't it?
And then he can also turn back time, so maybe that's why they're stuck in the 50s.
Ah, he keeps travelling, he keeps turning up to, because he comes from Smallville.
Yeah.
River Heights is probably the next town along.
Yeah, they seem very close.
He comes over, bangs Nancy Drew until kisses her so she forgets who she is, and then flies around the world again. But he does it too much, and now they're stuck in the 50s.
Yes.
Solved it.
We are geniuses.
You know something we can't solve? Squirrel. The word squirrel. Do you notice there's a lot of Americans on podcasts that say squirrel?
Squirrel. It's like squirrel.
Squirrel.
Coral. It's almost like that.
Graham becomes Graham. Horror becomes whore.
Yeah, I like
Squirrel
when they say
becomes
whore.
squirrel. And they're going to not be sated until every word in the English language is one syllable.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame them. It's the rhotic accent. That's just how it works. But then with other rhotic accents like Irish or Scottish, I think squirrel it's quite obvious. So weird.
Give it the 2 syllables it deserves. People. The Crooks have similar wacky dialogue. This is clearly a comedy of crime.
I think Frankenstein needs another lemon bar, Steve replied teasingly. I thought the Crankosaurus was extinct. Oh, I'm so sorry, Cranky Doodle Dandy.
So these crooks are obviously starving stand-up comics who have turned bad.
Very bad.
Can't make ends meet. Can't pay the rent. Nancy escapes the crooks, and here's our important plot stuff. I'm going to give you a big plot dump so that we all know where we are. 1. Ned tried to give her a small gift box, but he loses his opportunity when Nancy's dad drags her away. 2. Nancy's going away for a few months to LA because her dad has a big case to work on, so that's going to be a culture shock.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fish out of water if I ever did see one. 3. Nancy's mum is dead.
Because you always need an orphan or slightly orphaned protagonist. It's just always the way.
Especially if it's a kid. If they don't have some sort of trauma in their past, it's hard for me to give a shit about them.
Sherlock does have both of his parents, though, but they're never in the picture, so... I don't know. Points to Sherlock, points to Nancy. I don't know.
I don't know.
Nancy bit her lip trying to remember anything about her mother.
Mr. Grey will see you now.
Oh, God. She had died when Nancy was just 10 years old. Any memories Nancy had of her at all were really just a blur.
Now let's reflect on that. Does that seem strange to you? She had died when Nancy was just 10 years old, so any memories were a blur. She can't remember 10 whole years of her mother?
I'm pretty sure I remember the first 10, at least some of the first 10 years of my life.
I remember every single thing from the 10 years of my life. What? Nancy's 16. She doesn't remember a fucking thing from 6 years ago? Is she part of Goldfish?
Well, Superboy. Need we say more?
Has she been brain damaged?
Superboy, man. This theory carries more water than we thought it did.
All I'm saying is 10 is pretty old. It's not like she was in the womb or anything. If she was in the womb, I can understand her not remembering things. But, how old is Daniela Burr if she thinks that, 10-year-olds don't... She must be, 95 if she can't remember back to what being a 10-year-old was like.
Because in the movie, I'm pretty sure she doesn't specify how old she was, and in the original books, I didn't get to look that up, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure they don't specify that either.
She's 4 years old, very advanced.
Does she ever solve the mystery of her mother's death? That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. There's your sequel right there.
Nancy Drew origin story.
But Dad wants her to give up sleuthing and act like a normal teenage girl. You'll go to school, you'll go shopping, you'll spend some time with teenagers. It's what you're supposed to be doing. Shopping.
I want you to be as dull and shallow as all the other kids.
You'll go shopping and you'll eat fries in a food court.
Capitalism.
You'll flirt with cute boys. No more sleuthing.
I want you pregnant by 16.
Yeah.
But I really wish mysteries were this easy to find, because for her, they're a daily occurrence. Somehow.
Yeah, she attracts mystery. She's got a big old mystery magnet secreted somewhere on her body.
Definitely a point to Nancy, because Sherlock, I mean, sometimes he goes months without a case. She finds them all the time. They need to team up.
If you're keeping score between these two, I've got to say, at the beginning here, I'm not very pro Nancy Drew. There's going to be a point in this narrative where that is going to change, and I'm going to become pretty pro Nancy Drew, just putting it out there.
Yeah, because it starts... Yeah, when I first started reading this book, I'm going, well, I mean, she's American, so there's a point from her, and and obviously to Sherlock. And we're nice to the Americans. See. Anyway, yeah, she is definitely... she's a surprise. That's what she is.
Here's some really shifty exposition handling. After her dad, while driving her home, explains all the moving to LA plot stuff to her, she turns around and realizes that her best pals George and Bess were hiding in the back seat all along and overheard everything, which completely saves us from having an additional scene of exposition.
Yeah, that's very convenient.
It was like, remind me of Back to the Future 2, with all that, like, I've got no idea that there are people sitting an inch behind me, pantomiming, trying to steal my almanac. And then Ned finally gives her this little box before she leaves. I thought it was going to be a teen wedding, maybe spurned by a teen pregnancy, but no, it's a compass. Girl, get an iPhone. You will cut that sleuthing kit in half, I promise you.
Man, technology. See that arrow? Ned asked, excitedly pointing at the arrow in the center of the silver compass. It's calibrated so that when you're in Los Angeles, he blushed slightly at the sentiment, it'll point the way back to River Heights.
Unfortunately, River Heights wasn't north, thereby rendering the compass useless. It would later cost Nancy her life.
Yeah, why would he give her an utterly useless compass? Because you could also think about it from this way. If it was, in fact, north of LA, then it's just a normal compass.
Yeah, so it has to be different. I blame the US education system, I blame a poor diet, and I blame the fact that he probably has a minimum wage job and lives on tips.
And I blame the government and chemtrails.
And Obama. Okay, so look, for some reason, Nancy's dad let her choose the house that they're staying in when they're in LA. And she chose the house where a famous mystery happened.
That is a lot of responsibility to put on a young girl.
I know, especially one that doesn't seem to use the internet or anything like that. She must have had to do a lot of legwork to sort this whole deal out. Apparently, in this house, an actress called Delia Draycott mysteriously drowned in the pool in 1983. Now, if you go into the IMDb trivia section for this film...
Oh, yes, this is interesting.
Yeah, it points out that this 1983 date and the fact that it's a drowning under mysterious circumstances deliberately mirrors the real-life case of Natalie Wood. So I'm hoping that this is going to lead to a scene where Nancy interrogates an increasingly uncomfortable Christopher Walken.
I can see that so vividly in my mind. I want it to exist.
But look, for some reason, the real estate agent, who's called Barbara, has set up a projector to prank Nancy into thinking there's a ghost. The sight of a figure in the dark hallway stopped Nancy cold. She was certain she saw a woman coming toward her. Well, not a woman exactly, more like a filmy, transparent image of a woman. If Nancy hadn't known better, she'd have sworn it was a ghost. The ghost of Delia Draycott.
And that shows up a few times. It's I'm just trying to think, like, did the real estate agent do this, or was it like a tourist attraction.
It's not a great way to respectfully remember a suspected murder victim.
Yeah, not really.
And apparently the house is booby-trapped, according to the real estate agent. Full of booby traps.
Actual traps, what can kill you?
I don't know, like... I'm hoping there's going to be a scene when Nancy Drew runs down the stairs with a giant boulder rolling behind her.
Yes.
Opens the bathroom mirror and ducks as a sharp pendulum swings by, almost severing her head.
Have you noticed all booby traps look exactly the same in every film?
Yeah, they fire arrows, maybe a snake pit.
That thing with the nails sticking out of the walls and the walls are closing in on you.
Oh, that's a great thing to have.
Classic.
In a young girl's bedroom.
The Red Room. Oh god. Why do I keep referencing that stupid movie?
It's fresh.
But I didn't put a note in for this, but the real estate agent, as well as, you know, some of the schoolgirls, say, oh, Nancy, you need a makeover. Oh, you know, you look so much better with a makeover. And it's just that typical thing, the way you treat female characters, and I guess women in real life. It's like, yeah, you know, if with a little bit of this and that, you could look perfect. Like, your male characters never get criticised for their appearance.
Her retro outfits are pretty great, actually.
I quite like the costume design.
I think what she's wearing is a lot better than what the others are wearing. So
she is perfect.
I'm all for the 50s. Look, Nancy's pissed at the ruse, this ghost thing, and she wants a different place to stay, but the real estate agent assures them there is nothing else available in their price range. So they can apparently afford a multi-story famous mansion, but they can't afford anything lower than that. Like, that is the cheapest possible thing on the market. They can't, like, get a hotel or a caravan.
Yeah.
Camp in the park.
That's ridiculous.
And there's also a very creepy caretaker on the premises.
Actually, I will say that is the one improbable thing in this entire film. Absolutely.
Mr. Leshing.
Oh, Mr. Leshing.
Who is setting off a real weird vibe, if you get my meaning, ladies. Yeah. And then in the night, someone steals her peachy folder and her moccasins.
I don't even know what a peachy folder is.
Sounds to me like they're saving her from herself.
Yes.
I did look up the peachy folder.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a manila folder style thing for just keeping your bits and pieces in.
That makes it sound way more exciting than it actually was. I'm very disappointed.
Peachy's the brand, I believe, because the ones I saw online have a logo that says, a round circle that says Peachy.
Oh, that's one of those things where they say the brand rather than what it actually is.
Like Kleenex.
Yes.
And then she finds and reads Delia Draycott's books, including a Vincent Price cookbook. And I was like, what's all this about? But of course, this is a real thing. Apparently he wrote many cookbooks.
I had no idea. I'm a huge fan of Vincent Price. I had no idea that he'd even published any books, let alone cooking books. That is just amazing.
And I've pasted in a picture for Courtney to see here. There's this book called Cooking Price-Wise with Vincent Price. And although he's in a lit, normal domestic kitchen, I feel like he's kind of sinisterly hunched over his pot, making some spooky soups.
I'm making creepy pasta.
This pie has an eye in it. Woo! And then there's this picture of him sitting, it's from inside the book, sitting with his food, with this big frown on his face, like, this soup is too spooky.
Ghostly gnocchi. Gnocchi? I have no idea how to pronounce that.
I liked your version best. And then she also finds a mysterious letter from Delia addressed to Z, or Z as we would say here. I didn't give the Americans that one. Z sounds a lot better than Z.
I prefer Z. What is Z all about? That's adding another letter in there.
Yeah.
It's not ZD.
You guys win that one.
Yes.
So Nancy goes to my favourite place in the world to read about American high school.
Where all stories lead to for some reason.
They are just the comedy mines. There is always great stuff happening in American high school like this. She was the only one in the entire school wearing a dress that went almost down to her knees or who had a string of pearls around her neck. She wasn't drinking diet soda or flirting heavily with the boys. You've got two things to describe the students at this school. As a writer, you're going to pick drinking diet soda and flirting heavily with the boys. And I did look when the school scene happened, and I did see some soda cans in the hands of these girls that were walking into the school.
But yeah, it's one of those things. Actually, I think it was 22 Jump Street kind of sends that up, that kids have no clue about fashion, but they focus in so much on these certain things. Like in that movie, 22 Jump Street, when they were in college, university, one backpack strap. You only wore one backpack strap. That was cool. Now they've come back. 2 backpack straps are the cool thing. You would look like an idiot otherwise.
But notice, I mean, they're not saying that she was the only one wearing a dress that went down to her ankles. They say almost down to her knees.
Yeah.
So it's above the knees. What are the other girls wearing then? I'm assuming they're bottomless, crotchless.
Oh, when I was at school, girls would roll up their skirts so they were even shorter. But then they fail to realise that makes them look like they've got really wide waists. So they've made this big bulkiness around here, but at least the legs are showing. They would make fun of me because I would just wear my skirt. However, I did not care how I looked at school. But the others did. And also very recently, I used to work in an alteration place, and there was a girl who wanted her school uniform made shorter, and I said, "Oh, your school, the rules won't let you have that any shorter," and she started crying. Oh, teenagers, your emotions are so high.
And what's wrong with string of pearls? I mean, God, it's Lisa Simpson's been doing it for years. I think it looks great.
Yeah, it's a classic look, but, all the girls these days are about the costume jewellery and the little mustache necklaces and what have you.
So it turns out Nancy is the only one who is good at school, especially drama. She stood up in front of the entire class and recited her favourite Shakespearean lines. "Oh, happy dagger, this thy sheath, there rest and let me die." Her favourite Freudian Shakespearean lines.
Yeah, why that line? I would have expected something from, Henry V from her, but oh well.
She was very sheath obsessed at this point in her development. And the fashionable girls are also shocked at Nancy's healthy lunch because
Inga looked over at the display of food in front of Nancy and then at her own tray, which was stocked with French fries, Diet Cola, and a slice of pizza. The typical American diet, of course.
You are gross, America.
Although, I should, when we were siding with America on the whole Z thing.
Yes.
That proves that we are, in fact, a neutral party. We will give you points when you do, in fact, deserve them.
Just like Nancy Drew, just like Sherlock, we are only searching for the truth.
Yes.
We are fair in our judgment. If you guys, we'll chalk you up a point if you deserve a point.
Yeah.
But if you guys are shoveling French fries at your kids every lunch in your cafeteria, that's pretty gross. So, Inga and Trish, you mentioned Inga before, they're the mean girls, and one of them has a freshman brother called Corky, who is no doubt named after the character from Life Goes On.
There's always some fat kid with an embarrassing name in these kinds of movies.
Well, look, this was an extra treat for me because when I watched the movie after reading the book, I realised that this is not just any fat kid. This is the fat kid that plays Ace Ventura's son in Ace Ventura Jr. Pet Detective.
Oh my god!
The made-for-TV third Ace Ventura movie where Ace Ventura's son is the star, and this is that kid.
Good lord.
And I was like, holy shit, son. I didn't even know that movie existed until a couple of months ago.
Oh, that's terrible.
And he does what at least one American student does nearly every day. He nearly dies while choking on a pretzel. But
pretzels are making me thirsty.
Making me dead. And luckily Nancy is there to save his fat ass.
Despite the fact that his airway was now free, Corky still did not appear to be breathing. But Nancy did not panic. There's no contractions here. Instead, she laid him back down, placed some rolled-up sweatpants under his neck, and prepared to give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
Every good sleuth kit should definitely include a pair of rolled-up sweatpants.
Yeah.
I never leave home without them.
Never know when you need them.
Always be prepared, and by that I mean be prepared to have some sweat in your pants.
Yeah, calling them sweatpants is really They're track pants. They're tracky dacks, if you will.
Tracky dacks, mate. Bloody Sam Werther doesn't wear sweatpants. He wears fucking tracky dacks, and sometimes he cacks his dacks.
No.
Look, but it turns out this whole thing, the whole choking thing, it wasn't real. It was all a trick to sexually humiliate Nancy Drew.
See, I don't know why she would be embarrassed. You know, when it comes to that sort of thing, obviously they're just playing a prank, but she was just doing what you're supposed to do.
She nearly put her mouth on the mouth of a fat kid.
Oh my goodness.
In the school gym. That's the grossest thing.
Good lord.
He was like, Nancy, I got a bit of pretzel caught in my pee hole. Could you help me?
And also, what if it had failed? What if one of the teachers had decided to do first aid?
A big burly man with a scratchy beard.
Oh, come here, mate. I'll get that pretzel out for you. Come on, give us a kiss, mate. Oh, you taste like bacon.
Also, when someone's choking, mouth-to-mouth resuscitation isn't generally the first thing you do.
The pretzel would just go out of his mouth, into her mouth, and then she'd be choking. He'd have to suck it back into his mouth, and it'd have to go back into her mouth. They would just have to keep doing that until it disintegrated. Anyway, at night, Nancy hears more mysterious footsteps, and she finds a hidden projector room filled with old films. Ooh, stag films, snuff films. I think she just better hope Mr. Leshing doesn't have a hidden peephole in the bathroom. That would be my major concern if I was young Nancy Drew.
I've seen so many weird, messed up videos on the internet that I'm assuming... My mind immediately went into that area of... there used to be this website, I don't even remember the name of it anymore, but it's just... It was... You know, it looked like someone just dumped videos onto the internet. And they weren't particularly creepy in any way I can actually explain. Like, one of them is a woman makes a peanut butter sandwich, then she gives it to a man, the man puts it on the ground, a dog eats it. And they repeat this a few times. And for some reason, just the way it's filmed in a really grainy, creepy way...
It sounds Lynchian.
Yeah, there's no explanation, it's just Lynchian. I like that word.
So, Corky shows up at the house. Nancy quickly forgives him for his attempted sexual assault. And Corky joins the Delia...
is it Delia?
Delia, I can't, it's spelled Dehlia, and I always...
And it looks like Delilah.
Yeah, I always pause on it.
I think it's Delia, like short for Cordelia. I don't know.
No idea. Corky sighed and flashed a smile. I think the ability to sleuth is an attractive quality in a woman.
Oh god, I've known guys like that. You know, there's certain guys who will just, they follow you around like a puppy and they agree with everything you say. Oh, Courtney, you're so amazing. Yes, okay, leave me alone, please.
Nailed it, Courtney. You were so amazing. So Nancy is excited that the old footage leads her to believe that Delia might have been secretly pregnant. Awesome. This could be a double murder.
Yay!
Dead baby in the pool. Check the filter.
You know, this is actually... That's the thing about, Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys, or what have you. They're aimed at kids, but it's still... There's murder mysteries that they solve.
Yeah, it's pretty dark stuff.
It's cool. They should do that more often on other kids' shows.
And then suddenly Nancy ends up on the set of a Hollywood movie, which is set in the 50s because the retro clothes she's wearing makes the costumer think that she's an extra.
The costumer is a bitch.
And the film stars, this was the biggest shock.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis is cameoing in this film.
And he's not described... I don't think the author knew who was going to be playing that role at the time because... You know, usually, it's almost like the Terminator Salvation, where there's no reference to Arnold Schwarzenegger, just there's no reference to it being Bruce Willis.
No, he says his name's Bruce. Hi, the actor said, holding out his hand. I'm Bruce. All right, the angry director scolded. I'll tell you what, why don't you direct the movie, Nancy Drew? And with that, he stormed off the set. Bruce smiled triumphantly. Listen, Nancy, would you consider directing this film? Guess we can get rid of this guy in a second. Matt, where was Nancy when Kevin Smith directed Cop Out? That would have been a really good solution.
Yeah, we need more Nancy. Points to Nancy Drew, because I don't think Sherlock could direct a film. I think Nancy could, though.
Yeah, this is where Nancy's starting to win me over, because this film is very blandly directed. So if, Nancy just took over, I think we'd be ahead of where we are. And then Nancy tries to get birth records from a hospital, and she seduces the clerk with something very special. Now, see, I'll say this, Courtney, see if you can guess what it is she seduces him with. He took another nibble. It's perfectly moist. Nancy grinned. She could tell he was weakening.
Good Lord!
Yeah. It was a cake.
Yeah.
And then Nancy tracks down the poor, and by poor I mean poverty-stricken.
See, Nancy doesn't need to sell herself to get answers. No, she just uses food.
Pastries.
Keeping her dignity intact.
She finds the poor brunette woman who she believes to be Dahlia's daughter. But fuck that noise. I don't care about that. I care about the photo section.
Can we just start calling Delia different names like Daria?
I just called it Dahlia. It's because I just did the Black Dahlia on Scarjo a Go-Go not that long ago.
Salvador Dali. So yeah, the photo section.
Yes, is all set up like her Peachy folder, I assume.
She's like, oh my god, here's Ned, heart.
I like, my favourite one was, I started getting scary phone calls from men. That happens. But in perfect photo section tradition...
Oh, look at her, she's so cute.
The last caption completely explains the entire mystery. So halfway through the book...
Should we do it? Should we spoil it?
Yeah. I want people to get the experience that you get when reading the book.
It is actually infuriating. I was upset and going, I think I know where this is going, but I don't want it to be told to me straight up.
Yeah, this is a mystery. And usually captions are pretty brief. Like, Nancy answers a question in class. Or, nice shoes, Nancy. But this one says, it turns out that Z was Delia's lawyer and he was also the one who murdered her. Leshing is actually Jane's father. He and Delia are in love. Another case solved. Z was arrested. Jane, Ellie and Leshing met at last. And Dad and I went back to River Heights where we belong. Oh, and I got to see Ned again. That is a caption in the photo section. That's the entire second half of the book. It's like a ding, ding, ding. Thanks, driver. I'll just get off here. I won't go all the way to the depot.
Okay.
Well, I loved it because it saved us some time. Now we don't have to explain what happens. We can just enjoy the lols. So, 12-year-old Corky wants to take Nancy on a date, but there's a guy in River Heights, Nancy explained, reaching into her pocket and fingering the silver compass Ned had given her. Whew. Okay. Thought that was getting a little dark there. And then someone in an SUV tries to kill them, and then they meet entertainment lawyer Dashiell Biedermeier. I wonder how...
Dashiell Biedermeier.
Yeah, I wonder how he fits into all this. Hey?
Oh, yeah, I didn't even point. God, we already know everything. We should just done, finished.
Here's an unwieldy sentence, though. Here, try and get your head around this.
I'm not the best reader. Mr. Biedermeier was a very busy man and not likely to notice a teenager, unless, of course, he happened to bump into her somewhere, which explained why Nancy was waiting near the entrance to his law firm when he walked outside on his way to a meeting the following afternoon.
Nailed it, Danielle Burr. Nailed it. And Ned shows up in Nancy's car. I don't mean that she's in her car and he just turns up in the back seat. Her car isn't in LA. He drives her car to LA.
So if she can drive, that means she's like...
I think she's 16.
16? Okay.
I think Emma Roberts is 16 when she filmed this. And they go on a date with Corky. So it's Corky, Ned and Nancy in order to find a mystery Chinese box. And then I assume that the two of them will treat her like maybe, a Chinese finger trap?
Good Lord.
Kidding. And then Nancy very casually deals with a bomb.
Yeah, Sherlock, especially in that season 3, shows he doesn't know how to deal with a bomb. Nancy, however, gets that shit sorted.
This is where I started to go, hang on, Nancy Drew, you're a bit of a badass.
We'll have to ask Tim, the stats man, to tell us how many points we've given to Nancy.
I think 7.
All of them. But Nancy wasn't listening to Inga anymore. Instead, she was focusing on the series of beeps coming from the package in her car. She wasn't going to be able to defuse the bomb. There was only one thing to do. She picked up the device, walked over to the sewer hole, missing its grate, and tossed the bomb inside.
Fuck you, Ninja Turtles. You gotta wonder, though, in LA, how many, open sewers... I mean, I've been to LA, that would explain the smell, but how many open sewers are there? Do people just, fall down into the sewers all the
Deus
time?
Ex sewer.
Yeah, never heard of again. It really gets my goat when someone tries to kill me. It's so rude. It only makes me want to try harder, Nancy complained. Best line in the whole book. I love that.
My jimmies.
Isn't it gets my goad, though? The actual origin of that saying? I believe that's something that's been... A goad is like a stick for hitting. I believe that if you look up the entomology there...
Really?
It's originally gets my goad.
Entomology is
insects.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'll look up the insects.
Look up the insects and get them to fly off and find you some kind of dictionary, some sort of phrase book.
Don't trust butterflies, though, because I hear they start hurricanes.
And I don't trust something that transforms that much in its life. That's why I don't trust Optimus Prime.
We went on a tangent.
I'm smart! So Nancy, though, she's so delightfully weird. I really like this.
And when her father came downstairs for breakfast, he found her out on the patio in a beret with a paintbrush in hand, creating a portrait of Ned and Corky.
They were naked and wrestling, which I thought was kind of cool. And then finally Nancy realizes there are secret passages in the house. Seriously, isn't that the first thing you look for when you go, how did the footsteps get from here to here? You're in an older house, there's always a secret passage. And it's in the wardrobe as well. Has she not read Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe?
Okay.
Watchmen, Secret Seven?
Yeah. Points to Sherlock here. Sherlock would have found hidden compartments just in the first day of being there.
You've got to go and knock on all the walls, all the wardrobes. And the secret tunnel goes to an apartment block where Mr. Leshing lives. And there's a woman there who's doing her washing when she comes through. And the woman says...
That man has always given me the willies, the woman told Nancy.
Which is ironic, seeing as how we now know that Leshing was using the tunnel to give Delia Draycott his willy. Yeah? I wonder if he just had a really long willy. And he didn't even, actually go around to the house. He just, pushed it through the tunnel
Mr. Fantastic.
Like a snake in a pipe. And then, suddenly, Nancy throws a party.
Also, I want to point out that this movie is so white. Pretty much everyone is white. There's some Asian people, but that's the thing. When I was reading it, I read it before I watched the film. I was actually imagining more people of colour. Or coloured people, as Benedict Cumberbatch says.
That's what you might say. And this is what happens at a white person's party. By the time Saturday night rolled around, Nancy had planned the perfect birthday party. The dining room table was laden with trays of popcorn balls, pigs in blankets, and canapes. That's right, Nancy, utter perfection.
Utter American perfection.
And unfortunately, she wasn't able to concentrate. Inga and Trisha's friends were totally out of control. They were throwing their drinks everywhere, slam dancing into the furniture, and fighting with each other. This was definitely not the kind of party Nancy was used to. Happy fucking birthday, Nancy Drew. Slurred Trish injecting heroin into her eyeballs.
Can you really do that?
Yeah, I think Inga and Trish were doing some A to A on the living room floor. People were in a circle waving money. And then Trish collapses due to a peanut allergy. And Nancy does the most badass thing yet. This is my conversion.
Yeah.
This is where I am completely pro Nancy Drew. Did not see this coming.
And with that, she unscrewed the pen and jabbed it into Trish's neck. A moment later, the sound of Trish breathing could be heard through her neck.
Tarantino sits back in his chair at this point and goes, now that's fucked up. She got a biro and jammed it into Trisha's neck
just like
so
that
she
movie,
could breathe.
Red Eye? I don't know if you've ever seen Red Eye. It's quite old now, but Rachel McAdams was in it and she stabs Cillian Murphy in the neck with a pen.
The only problem is the film doesn't make nearly as much use of this scene. It should have been really just graphic and just made you sit up in your seat and go, okay, you got my attention now, Nancy Drew.
Yeah, I wish this were, PG, because then it would also be not a peanut allergy, but probably drugs.
And then Ned has to go. He has to go back to River Heights.
My mom said if I stayed past the weekend, she'd turn my room into a den, Ned joked.
You know, make it dark, dank, strew some antelope bones everywhere. And then, oh shit, finally, now that it's her birthday, Nancy gets a cell phone.
Her very own? Wow! Sometimes normal teenager stuff was pretty awesome.
Cell phones, way of the future. And you know what? I realised at this point, her dad is so anti-sleuthing and constantly telling her not to sleuth and asking you, no, have you been sleuthing? That I've come to the conclusion that he doesn't know what sleuthing is. Just like me with etymology, entomology. This guy's got no idea. I think he thinks it's teen slang for something really dirty. I'm waiting for her to go, no, Dad, that's felching.
Oh, no!
And speaking of euphemisms, Nancy realises she has to open a Chinese box by making the dragon bow.
That's what she said.
So look, the jig is up. Nancy finds Delilah's will, proving that Jane is in fact the daughter, but the cell phone wasn't actually from her father, and it turns out the crooks planted it to track her.
Two men in dark clothing leaped out and grabbed Nancy from behind. The larger man had a cold, calculating look in his eyes.
This morning, the body of a teenager with honey brown hair was found beaten and mutilated under the Hollywood sign. Two men have been arrested, one with a cold, calculating look in his eyes.
And you know what, that's not too dissimilar from Victorian era police reports. I love them. They get so dramatic and it just wanders into fantasy.
Nancy then wakes up in an old theatre. She finds her moccasins. She makes a fishing rod. She escapes in a garbage truck. She crashes her car and ends up in the hospital. Bad ass. Seriously, if they remake this movie, Nancy Drew should be Danny Trejo.
Oh, yes.
That is how badass she is.
Another point to Nancy Drew.
And of course the lawyer is Z. But this is far more important.
That left Nancy with one choice. She pushed the door open and leaped out of the moving vehicle.
Doesn't give a fuck. Devil may care. Plays by her own rules.
Another point.
And then Z tries to strangle Nancy Drew, and she doesn't give a damn. Can you strangle a tiger? A phoenix? A bolt of lightning? I am Nancy fucking Drew, motherfucker!
Nancy needed him where it would hurt the most. He bent over in agony and Nancy ran off.
And then Leshing bashes in Z's head with a shovel.
That's another point to Nancy Drew. That's 3 points in the space of a few pages.
The only thing that would have made that better is if he went, can you dig it? So evil is defeated. It's back to River Heights. I'm losing my voice. I was so fucking excited.
It was exciting!
Let's read the ending. Courtney's drinking water.
Well, gotta keep the voice.
It's all ambience. Yeah. Nancy stood up and walked over to him. Oh, Ned, you're sweet, she said with a grin, leaning toward him. He leaned over and planted a gentle kiss on her lips. They moved apart, both surprised and pleased at what had just occurred. It was a life-changing moment for both of them.
And then, just as suddenly, the moment was broken. Mr. Drew poked his head out of the front door. Nancy, he called out. Yes? Nancy shouted back.
A phone call, her father replied, long distance from Scotland. Something about the Loch Ness Monster and missing diamonds.
Now it's going into Tintin territory. Nancy gasped with unbridled excitement. Another case, she shouted, bounding toward the house.
We got one!
Leaving Ned standing alone by the car. He stood there for a moment, watching as she headed off toward the house. That was Nancy, always ready for the next mystery. After all, solving mysteries was what made Nancy Drew so special.
Amen.
Always alone, Ned Nickerson.
Poor Ned Nickerson, watching Nancy Drew run off. She was the greatest mystery of all. Women, they are the greatest mystery, aren't they? So confusing. Women, they're so confusing.
So unknowable. Another point to Nancy Drew because Sherlock, I don't remember which story it was, but he said, I can never understand women. I understand many things in this world, but women, they're just unknowable and confusing and they change their minds.
It's like I always think of Greg Sestero in The Room, where he's like, women, they're so confusing. Why do they need 2 sets of lips down there? I just don't understand them. And can you believe this? There is an ad for a mobile phone in the back of the book. Hey parents, go to AOLmobile.com to investigate and uncover everything your phone can do.
Like the bad guys tracking your every move.
Yeah, do they forget that, like, the cell phone nearly got Nancy Drew killed in this film? And it's this picture of it is this really clunky little flip phone as well. Check out AOLmobile.com and share with your kids the fun and mystery of Nancy Drew in theaters this summer. How absolutely sickening! So, I got to ask you, as I always do at this point, was the book better?
Yeah, actually, I think so. I was able to heighten it in my imagination. Although, film does allow you to see Emma Roberts being adorable, but I still give the book, I'd still give it to the book.
No, you nailed it. I absolutely agree with you. I'm going to give it to the book too, for the exact reason that you said, that my imagination, having read it first, made it into a lot better film than it actually was. I was actually really disappointed at how bland, and it's just not heightened enough.
Yeah.
So, I've got to give it to the book. Now, there was nothing of note on Amazon in the reviews, so I've got some good reads. So close your eyes and imagine the people that write these. This is a good book. It was kind of weird because I saw the movie before I read the book, but it was still a good book and had a very good plot.
Okay.
Yeah, nailed it. About this one. Now, there's a warning here. It says, this review has been hidden because it contains spoilers. To view it, click here. Well, I'd already read the book, so I wasn't afraid of a spoiler.
Yeah.
And I clicked because I wanted to know what the spoiler was. This book is mad, interesting, 100% no lie! Exclamation, 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 smiley face, smiley face, smiley face, smiley face, smiley face, smiley face, smiley face. Fucking ruined the ending!
It was okay.
Even though that's the last one, it was okay. So, mixed feelings about the Nancy Drew book. I actually had a bit of a blast. It was nice to do a lighter read, and I thought it was a lot of fun. I think Nancy Drew is one of the great detectives.
And I can't wait for the sequel. Oh, no sequel. Yeah, I think they were setting this up to make a new film franchise, but that never happened.
No, sadly.
Emma Roberts is a bit too old for that role. Although an older, sassier Nancy Drew, maybe that could be something.
Yeah, Nancy Drew, the college years, I would be up for. Alright, now next week on the show, I'm going to read the blurb for this one and see if you can guess what it is, even though you're looking at the front cover as I read it.
I'm not looking.
It's summer in the small seaside town of Astoria, and the Goonies are restless. You're never going to get this. Big developers threaten to take over the town, then Mikey finds an old pirate map and the kids take off to find the loot that can save their neighborhood. But they never counted on skeletons with swords, a booby-trapped underground passage, and the murderous ex-con, all of whom want the Goonies' heads. I don't believe the skeleton with the sword wants the Goonies' heads, but let's see. They took a vow to stick together through thick and thin, and that's lucky for them because the most incredible time of their lives is about to begin. The Goonies are looking for hidden treasure. What they find is a heap of trouble.
I bet it's Hook, right?
I don't know what's going to happen there, but goddamn, I can't wait to read all about the Goonies. That's a big classic right there. Steven Spielberg presents a Richard Donner film.
I didn't see that until I was about 18, I think.
Screenplay by Christopher Columbus. All the greats.
It was pretty good.
So, my guest host for that will be American friend Lauren. So that's fun. And we're going to make up for the horrible things Courtney said about America today with our American guest. Because we do love America. Beautiful land.
So, I liked Nancy. I think she's a great detective, but I think we should still look out there at the wider world of detectives, and maybe we can look at some others, web options.
Well, you discovered a new detective who was more popular than Sherlock Holmes at one point in his career.
Yes.
And you know who I'm talking about.
Sexton Blake.
Mr. Sexton Blake, who, just the name alone, makes him possibly my favourite detective, even though I haven't read or seen anything yet.
He lives on Baker Street. He plays a violin. he has this young boy who's his Watson. He's very much intended to be this knockoff Sherlock, and yet for some knockoff Sherlock, I like that. Anyway, for some reason, he became more popular than Sherlock Holmes around the 1950s, according to a survey of the time. So, very intriguing, and we started to do a little bit more research into that. Turns out there is a novelization of a 1970 Sexton Blake film.
I'm Sexton Blake, motherfucker! It's called Sexton Blake and the Furious Erection.
It was Vampire Moon, I think. And there was a naked lady on the poster, and he had a gun.
And the blurb was, Sexton Blake don't give a fuck.
So I think he might be another, competitor in the ring of detectives.
Something maybe for the future. Well, look, thank you so much, Courtney, for joining me on this. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
No worries.
And we're going to do a photo shoot, so you can look out for that on the sites as well.
Oh, we're always doing those.
Yeah, but it's an exciting one.
Oh, yes. They're always exciting.
But that's right. We're going to go and shoot some Daenerys this afternoon, so look out for that.
the mother of dragons.
On Cosplay Couture Tumblr. And please listen to the two other shows, which of course are Fruitless Pursuits' FP Cast, General Pop Culture Podcast. This week we reviewed the 50 Shades of Grey movie. I really want to share my thoughts on that with you. And Scarjo Agogo this week is the Nanny Diaries, which I'm looking forward to watching.
With Captain America.
For some strange reason. So catch up on those shows. Go to www.fruitlesspursuits to find links to all those, plus links to our discussion pages on Facebook. And please, please, please rate and review us on iTunes so that other people can find us. And speaking of which, there's going to be some exciting news soon about how even more people are going to be able to find us, and we might get our profile raised a bit. So it's a mystery for you all to ponder in the meantime. All right, thank you again. Should
Mysteries? Yeah.
Yeah, mystery solved.
Oh, yeah.
I think we did.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
You going to say the thing?
Well, first of all, we'll have to find another mystery. I feel really empty now.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, catch you on the flip.
Jumanji.